Today I'm going to show you a cooking system which involves wood gas stoves and a copper diffuser. This system is nice because it is a little bit similar to cooking on a stove in your house. This system is relatively fuel efficient and produces very little visible flame or smoke, less than a barbecue. What I did here was set up 6 wood gas stoves, and then I put a copper heat diffuser which I made on top of the wood gas stoves. The general idea is that the flames from the wood gas stoves will heat the copper diffuser. Copper is good at conducting and transferring heat and sort of diffusing the heat from the flames, and then the heat from the copper is transferred to the pan, which is a cast iron pan, and I used a 10-inch aluminum pie plate as a lid. You can see you need a lot of heat to make this work, so that's why I used 6 stoves. So the flames from the stove are just heating the copper. This copper gets very, very hot, almost like a stove element, so you have to be very careful when handling it in order to stay safe. This technique works because I got a pan full of water to have a rolling boil. This is a similar result to what you would have on an indoor stove. The nice thing about a wood gas stove is it requires no natural gas, propane, or electricity. It runs off of wood. Here I'm using my long reach pliers in order to work with the lid, which in this case is an aluminum pie plate. Look at that rolling boil. This system works quite well. It produces a lot of heat. Now I'm putting the lid on top. The lid is important because it helps you boil the water better. It keeps the heat in the pan. See, I just grab it gently, lift it up, and put it back on top. You could of course buy a real lid for your cast iron pan, but this is a solution if you don't have one, using an aluminum pie plate. So that pan is just cooking, and it's entirely powered by wood. And you can see wood gas stoves need some kind of a windscreen in order to work efficiently. This is my pan rest. This is where I put the pan when I take it off of the stove. Here are 2 bricks. This is where I put the hot copper diffuser if I need to take it off of the stove while I'm cooking. You have to be very, very careful when working with hot metal because it's very hot. Whenever I get near this stove, I have welding gloves on. This is an added safety feature, and it offers some protection from hot metal. These are welding gloves. Now I'm putting the pan on top of the pan rest, and that works quite well. If you were cooking on top of rocks, you probably wouldn't have to do this. But I'm cooking on top of grass, so I need a pan rest. So the food is cooling down a little bit. Now I'm going to show you how I use long reach pliers to work with the lid. I just lift the aluminum pie plate lid off, and then I can put it back on again and adjust it using the long reach pliers. This is not very difficult to do. You could also have a real pan lid, and that would be even easier, but an aluminum pie plate works in a pinch. See, it just takes a little pinch on the side, and you lift the lid off and put it back on. These aluminum pie plates are kind of shaped like a dome, which is nice if your food is a little bit higher than the pan. So they work quite well, and they also kind of reflect the heat in the pan. You can see sometimes I don't have it perfectly adjusted, but I can fix this using the long reach pliers. It's a good system, and it's often used to keep food warm. It's like tenting your food with aluminum foil. It's a similar result. So it works quite well. This is my setup here, including the plywood windscreen. You can see there's a pan rest and a place to put the copper diffuser, the 2 bricks. This is the copper heat diffuser. I made this copper heat diffuser using a step drill which cut holes through the copper. It wasn't very difficult to do, and you can see the flames are heating up the copper heat diffuser. It's just a sheet of copper, which is 1/8 of an inch thick, or 0.125 inches, or 3.175 millimeters. Now I'm going to remove this hot copper heat diffuser using hooks which I made. You have to be very careful when doing this. Ideally, you'd be wearing protective safety gear like a welder. So I have welding gloves on. You can have welding boots, welding pants, and maybe even a welding jacket as an added safety feature. So I'm hooking the hooks through the holes, and then I remove the hot copper heat diffuser, and I make sure it stays far from my body and does not contact my body at all, because it's very, very hot. I put it on top of the bricks. Here I've already cooled it. So you can see this is the basic arrangement here. And it's important to know how to take the copper heat diffuser on and off of the stove safely. The safest thing is just to, once it's hot, is to leave it on top of the stove until everything is cooled down. But if you have to, you have to know how to use the hooks. You can put it on like that, and you can also take it off. After a while, of course, the wood gas stoves stop burning because they run out of fuel, so you might have to refuel them. There, that's how you put it on top of the bricks, and make sure your feet do not come in contact with the hot metal. These are the hooks. You can see how they're bent, and they're just bent out of a steel rod. It's a little hard to bend the steel, but you'll find a way. So they're relatively wide so that my gloves can easily grab the steel hooks, even when it's cold. So I can do this even when it's freezing cold outside. There, I'm hooking through again, careful. And here is a shot of some really hot copper. One of the good things that you can do is just cool it down with water as soon as you take it off of the stove if you're done cooking, and be careful that you don't accidentally bump into this very, very hot metal. So look at that. I'm cooling it down now. I'm just dumping water on it. It doesn't have to be clean water, just any type of water, and it will rapidly cool down the metal. You can see how hot it is. You just keep pouring water on until it's cool. Keep pouring. It'll be pretty obvious once it's when it's cooled down. Make sure you put a lot of water on it, and test before you touch. Be very careful. Another technique is to put some snow on top if you're cooking outside in a winter survival situation. So the snow will also cool down the hot copper. You can bang the copper flat with an anvil in case it gets bent. Copper is a soft metal and it's easy to work with. It's sometimes hard to make perfectly identical hooks, so you might have 2 sets of holes on your copper diffuser. The holes are a different distance apart, so you have to get the right hook into the right holes. There, now I've lifted the plate, and I keep it far away from my body, the copper plate, and I can put it onto the stove very easily, and then I can take it off and put it on top of the bricks again. Once the copper has cooled down, you can rub it with sand or with snow in order to clean it off. Here I'm putting the heat diffuser on top of the wood gas stoves again. These are hooks, and the hooks have to have a wide enough handle that you can use welding gloves with them, so they're or big winter mitts. These are the hooks, and you can see how they're slightly bent forward, and you can just hook the copper heat diffuser with these hooks, and this keeps it a nice safe distance away from you. And this is a safety feature, and it helps you avoid getting burned. That's what the hooks look like, and I just put the hooks on the outside of the outdoor fireplace when I'm not using them, and I put the gear underneath the outdoor fireplace so that it's readily available and it stays out of the way. After a while, the flames die down in the wood gas stoves, and you just have coals. So this is a lower heat source when it's like this. You could also use 4 or 5 wood gas stoves, and then you'd have less heat, and the heat diffuser wouldn't be as hot. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.